All right, this is a core balance and mobility workout, basic level workout number 2. Let's start with some standing exercises. And first we'll do a wide stance hip hinge. So bring your feet so that they're about double your hip width. Keep your heel down. And we'll want to keep your spine in a neutral position as we do this exercise. So I'll show you from the side angle first. I'm just going to send the hips back. The knees stay back, but the torso angle comes forward. So my shoulders come forward. I hit the lowest point, and I feel the stretch on my inner thigh and on the back of my legs. Bracing my abdominals to keep my spine in a neutral position. And I'm flowing through it at about this tempo here. 8 repetitions. Good, and then we're on to some overhead rotations. So we'll stand tall to start with your knees extended, hips extended, abdominals braced, and then we'll rotate the shoulders so that they come overhead. Trying to come as close to directly overhead as we can. We'll do 8 repetitions here. Active in your legs, squeezing your legs and also bracing your abdominals. Trying to be symmetrical on both sides. Next, standing side bend and reach. So standing tall to start, and then I'm just going to push my hips out to the side a bit, and then reach the arm overhead, and I want to feel the stretch all along through my arm and my torso, and also in my hip. I'm going to hold each side for about 15 seconds. Reach the arm and release. Next, I'll go to some Y pulls. So I'm going to basically go in a motion and end up making a Y shape overhead and kind of come as directly overhead as I can. So I'll start with my arms right by my side, and then leading with my thumbs, I'll pull back to my furthest position, squeezing the shoulder blades together as I reach the top of the motion. It helps to brace your abdominals and to flex your legs during this motion. 1 more rep for 8. Then we'll do some standing elbows back external rotations. So I'm standing tall, and then I'm going to do sort of a rowing motion to start off to get my body in position. Notice that my elbows are pulled back. I'm squeezing my shoulder blades together, and my elbows are right below my shoulders, right here. So then I'm going to keep my elbows back and retracting my shoulder blades the whole time as I rotate at the shoulder, and then my forearm and my palm flips around. And I'll go for 8 here. Notice my elbow is staying fixed in space. It's not coming forward or backward, because I'm hinging at the shoulder. Next, we got standing hip flexor stretches. You can be next to the wall. You can, for this one, lean your body up against the wall if you would like. If you feel confident with your balance, you don't need the wall, but you'll just bring one knee up and tuck it in tight to your chest here while balancing on one leg or balancing against the wall. Tuck that knee in nice and tight. Stay strong through the down leg. And it's 15 seconds each side. Try to have your shoulders level. Try to have your lower leg in line with your upper leg so you're not out to the side or curled in, straight up and down. And then lastly for this part, we have some standing chops. So I'm going to stand tall, and I'm going to start with a split stance. reaching one arm overhead. Now from here, I'm going to step out a little bit wider. I'm going to let my hands drop down like I'm doing a wood chopping motion, and I'm going to hinge at the hips. I'll have transferred my weight from my back leg to my front leg. And then I'll extend back up, and then I'll come back down. 8 repetitions each side here. Extending this leg. It's a flowing motion. And I'll want to do both sides. I'll show you from the other angle here so you can see how my body is angling as I go down. I'm hinging at the hips, a little bit of knee bend, and my shoulders are coming forward. But I'm not rounding my back. I keep a neutral spine while I do this exercise. Actually, there's one more in this series. This is a standing hip flexor stretch. So I'm just going to split my stance here, step one foot in front of the other, and also getting a little bit of width in this step as well. Planting my front heel down, having my back heel elevated, but then pushing my hips forward a little bit so that I feel a stretch in my hip flexor of the trailing leg. Yeah, it helps the stretch if you squeeze your butt. Switch sides. You can squeeze forward. Back knee is mostly straight, a little bit of bend in the front knee. Okay, now we'll come over and make sure for these next few that we're close to the wall. And the first one we will do is a foot strength towel exercise simulation, 1 and 2. So if you didn't have a towel like I do, this would be, you could pretend that you do have a towel. But since I have one, I can actually do the proper towel exercises for my feet. Now, you're next to the wall, so you can use that for balance as needed. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to place, there's 2 different drills. And the first one, I'm going to place my heel down. I'm going to open up my foot as wide as I can. And then I'm going to place the ball of my foot and then my toes down on the towel. And then I will try to grab the towel and scrunch it in toward my heel. And I'll repeat that process of opening, closing, and then grabbing and trying to pull the towel in. I'll do 8 of these for each foot for this first style. Now the next style, I'll again plant my heel, but this time I'm going to rotate at the hip, have my foot open at this point. Then I'll close the foot down, grab onto the towel, and then rotate at the hip while I continue to flex my foot. Then I'll lift the heel, open up the feet, rotate at the hip again, place the ball and the toes down, rotate at the hip, and I'll repeat this process. So then I'm working to drag the towel to the outside of my working leg. And I'll do 8 of these each leg. Next, we have some assisted squats. So I happen to have a bench, well, I have this, I have the piano right here. This is perfect height for me. But if I didn't have that, I could just go on the wall for this. Okay, but what I'm trying to do is take some resistance off of my squat by placing my hands either on the wall or on the piano. And regardless of what you have, this is the mechanics that you want to try. You want to start standing tall with your heels down slightly wider than your hips, and your whole foot will remain on the ground throughout the exercise, especially your heel. Now you can think of this as in 3 parts. The first part is going back to that hip hinge position, coming so that your torso angle is at about 45 degrees, and here I push my hips back and my shoulders were forward. The second part is to bend my knees And I want to make sure that when I bend, my knees are not caving in like this. I have to keep them wide like so. And then I'll stand up from there. So hips, then knees, then hips, and standing tall. And this is how it looks with a bench. I can go down to this bottom position and kind of push myself out of there. And you just want to go as far as you can, pain-free here. This is a tough movement, but we're trying to increase your range of motion in the squat. Next, we have a wall pec stretch. This is your pec right here, your chest. So I'm going to stretch one arm out, place it on the wall so that it's slightly wider, slightly lower than my shoulder, and then I'll turn my body away from that outstretched arm and feel that stretch in the chest. I want to do both sides for 15 seconds each. Next, we'll go for some leg swings. So here I can hold onto the wall as needed for balance. I'm going to plant my inside foot and have my outside foot swinging. While I swing this leg forward and back, I'm going to keep my torso pretty much straight up and down in a neutral position, not arching and rounding, neutral. So I can start just by letting that leg swing freely at the hip. If I'm feeling pretty confident with this one, I can start to try to get more range of motion. And I want 8 repetitions each side. And so I would say, try to get to the point where you can have a big range of motion, and then once you can do that, then try to do it balancing, not relying on the wall. Then we also have some swings across your body. So on this one, using the wall, you would want to face the wall for this one, and then you're just going to let one leg swing from side to side here, opening up those hips. And then if you don't need the wall for balance, again, first try to get a good amount of range of motion so that your foot on either end is coming close to hip height, and then try to do it balancing. And then we have some standing butt kicks. Again, here you can use the wall for balance as needed, but try not to rely on it here as you are just going to rock from side to side and have your heel try to kick up at your butt. And you're going to do 8 repetitions each side. Okay, now let's go to some standing bent over tees. So I'm standing, feet together. I'm going to hinge at the hip, bend over at the waist. I'm going to hold this position now as I squeeze the shoulder blades together to lift my arms out to the side in a T shape. I'm going to do 8 repetitions of this one. So I'm not shrugging my shoulders when I do this. I don't want to be out here. I want to be down here. Squeezing the shoulder blades from the middle of your back. Next, I got some standing arm curls. So here you're just going to stand with your feet together. You're going to flex the legs up, brace your abdominals, pinch your elbows by your side, clench your fists, and then you're just going to do a nice, slow, controlled curl position where I'm really working to flex my arms here. If I had some weights, I could use weights here, but even just doing this, just trying to flex my arm as much as I can get a good little pump. Good. Next, we're going to work our way down to the mat. So we've got beginning with some side planks. We're going to do 15 seconds each side planks, elbow down, stay extended through the shoulder the whole time. That's the most important thing. And then we can work on this one from a couple of different levels. Level 1, you keep your hip down. And at level 2, you lift the hip but keep the knees down. At level 3, you may want to go up to level 3 where you split your feet, but then you lift your hips and your knees off the mat. So work at whatever level is appropriate for you, and you should be able to keep those hips high and keep that shoulder from shrugging. Try both sides. Here's level 1. Get confident with that first, and then you can work your way up to level 2 with split feet. Good. Next, you have some kneeling T-spine rotations. So I'll come from a kneeling position, hips, knees down and palms down. Open up those palms when you're in this kneeling position. Stretch those hands and wrists out. Now from here, I'm going to extend one arm out straight. I'm going to have my thumb up, and then I'm going, and palm is forward, and then I'm going to rotate so that my shoulder comes around, my arm reaches up, and my eyes follow my hands. For this one, I'm just going to do 5 repetitions each side. The thoracic spine is an area where it's a neglected range of motion. And this exercise really effectively isolates it. Eyes following the hands. And release. Next, seated chair position, hands down. Okay, so I'm going to be seated, hands down behind me, and I guess this is kind of a chair position. I can have my heels down, my knees are up, and from here I'm just going to think about opening up my chest. So rotate the shoulders back together, have your eyes look up at the ceiling, and then just breathe in nice and deep. 15-second hold. You're always breathing all the way in and all the way out. Releasing. Next is the Russian reach. For this one, you can just release your hands. And on this one, you can choose to keep your heels down, or if you want it a little more challenging and you want to balance, you can choose to do that as well. But what we're going to do here for this one is you're going to keep your body totally square. Your shoulders especially are going to stay square on. But then what you're going to do is you're going to stretch your shoulder to reach to the right, back to the center, and then out to the left. And in order to stay square and reach as far as you can, not only are you stretching your shoulder, especially your trailing shoulder, the one that goes across your body, but also you have to really brace your abdominals, and you'll probably feel some of your transverse, your lateral core muscles having to work to hold you in this position while you reach. 8 each side. Next are side-lying adductor lifts. So your adductor muscle is the one, it's basically your inner thigh muscles. So what I'm going to do for this is just lie outstretched by my side, and I can have, you want to switch, have your top leg both in front and behind, in front of or behind your bottom leg. I'll start with my front leg in front of my bottom leg. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to squeeze both of my inner thighs, both from the top leg and the bottom leg, so that I can lift my lower leg. You're not going to go very high with this one, but you will want to feel like you're squeezing your inner thigh. You'll be working your inner thigh. Adductor muscles. Get both sides, 8 repetitions each. And then we've got some laying frog kicks. So I'm in the laying position. I can just let my head relax, and then what I'm going to do is I have to lift my leg off the mat, have it rotate over to the side, and bring my knee up to the side as high as I can, and then send it back to an extended position. And then I'll just switch side to side. I'm having to work really good exercise for my mid and upper back, as well as my lateral hip flexors. I'll do 8 each side. My abdominals have to work pretty well here too, to keep my body square. Okay, next ones, we're going to lying chair position hip rotations. So I'm lying down on my back. I can just let my head relax. I'm in this sort of chair position with my knees sort of together. And then I'm going to let my knees drop from side to side. And I'll do 8 touches each side. Doing a little opener for my mid-back. So just so you know, the rotation here is coming from my thoracic spine and from my hips, while my lumbar spine mostly stays neutral. Okay? Next are some hip bridge holds. So I'm lying down again, let my heels come down to the mat, and then I'm going to press through the heels to lift the hips, squeezing your butt, and just holding this position. Squeezing the back side of your body to stretch the front side of your body. 15-second hold. Lying snow angels are next. As the name implies, you're just going to basically draw a snow angel on the mat. But what this is working is trying to open up at the hips as far as you can and trying to get as much arm range of motion overhead as you can. You're going to try to keep your elbow and your wrist, the back of your wrist, on the mat for this one. So just go as high as you can before your elbow comes off of the mat. Or you might not be able to get your elbow back on the mat. And that's okay. You can bring yourself through a little range of motion, but that's what we're working on, trying to get you better mobile so that you can let your hands go back in that position. Lying scissors are next. Lying on your back, extending one leg out straight, extending the other leg up overhead. I can grab lightly right behind my knee, but then I'm going to switch, switch, carry on this tempo, and I'll do 8 each side. Point the toe when it's extended out, and I can flex the toe when it's up overhead. Okay, now we're going to really go into the stretches. The first one is a V-sit. Sit on my butt and just open up as much as I can while seated on the ground. I can have my hands behind me here, or I can cuss my hands underneath my thighs. But the most important thing is to keep the torso upright. I don't want to slouch here. Upright torso. 15-second hold. Lying hamstring stretch across body is next. So I'm lying on my back. I'm going to kick one leg up again, and then I'm going to let it come a little bit across my body here. Then I'll work to extend at the knee, and I can pull behind my calf with my arms a little bit and flex my toe. And I'll feel that stretch throughout the back side of my body. 15 seconds each side. Yeah, from your calf, and then also your hamstring into your glutes. That's where you'll feel it. Next is the child's pose. This one you are on your knees, have your feet pointed, and the back of the top of the foot will be down on the mat. Sit back to your heels, stretch your arms out overhead, reach those arms, and then just try to relax into this position. 15 seconds. Next, crossed leg tricep stretch. I'll come into a seated cross leg position, tuck in as tight as I can. Keep the shoulders upright, and then I'll reach one arm back behind me as far, go as low as I can, and then assist with the other arm a little bit. Breathe. 15 seconds each side. Now, do the other side, uncross your legs as well as switching arms. Last one is a lower leg massage. So you're going to spend about a minute each side working on your calf muscle here. Now, one thing to notice on your calf muscle is that your bone runs right through the inside of your leg here, and one of the most vulnerable spots is right when you slide to the middle and the inner part of your calf. This part tends to get very tender. So you can just run your fingers up and down along the bone, on the muscle, but right along the bone ridge, and massage that out. You can go just on the other side of that calf as well, and this also gets tender right in the middle. So you have the bulbous area, and yeah, that is tender, all the way up to your knee here. Just grab it and try to squish it around, And then I'll get in right here on the outside. It's very tendinous, you'll feel, the outside of your leg, and you have your shin muscle here. Really, it's probably going to be pretty dense for a lot of us, and so you got to dig those thumbs in there and massage that out. Making sure to get both sides, and this is just a roughshod way to do this, but you can get a professional massage, which is really great for this. And you can use a foam roller, but this is how actually you can do it without any equipment, not without spending $1. And it's something that's really going to help the health of your lower legs. That concludes day 2 of the basic strength and conditioning program for core, mobility, and balance.